Section 2. The Self and the Demise of Dualism. Traditionally, in ancient philosophy and in the great faith traditions, these 5 characteristics of the self have been explained by claiming that each human being is in possession of a soul, frequently deemed to be immortal. Modern science has generally rejected this view, but as Susan Blackmore observes, a few established scientists and philosophers have tried, quote, to find a self that lurks in the gaps in our understanding, end quote. She mentions specifically the philosopher Karl Popper and the neuroscientist John Eccles. They suggested that the self controls its brain by intervening at the synapses between neurons. But in the modern philosophical and scientific communities, dualists are very few and far between. The more conventional rejection of spiritual explanations of the self by the scientific establishment is epitomized by Daniel Dennett's insistence that, quote, selves are not soul pearls, but social artifacts, end quote. In a decidedly satirical tone, Douglas Hofstadter starts with the thesis that consciousness arises from a spiritual soul which somehow gets implanted in the physical human body, and then asks a number of very pointed questions. For example, does the whole human body, or just the brain, or just a part of the brain, possess soul consciousness? What organizational or chemical property of these physical structures ensure they get a dollop of soul consciousness? How does soul consciousness know how to do this? What kind of glue is used to attach the soul? Quote, can the glue possibly wear out and the consciousness accidentally fall off or transfer onto something else? If your dollop of consciousness had been attached to my brain and vice versa, would you be writing this and I reading it? If what we call I is a squirt of some unanalyzable capitalized essence magically doled out to each human being at the moment in which it is conceived, with each portion imbued with a unique savor permanently defining the recipient's identity, then we need look no further for an explanation of what we are, even if it depends on something inexplicable, end quote. These sorts of considerations have led many researchers to predict the complete demise of the notion of, in Gilbert Ryle's dismissive phrase, the ghost in the machine. The neurologist Ramachandran concluded that as neuroscience progresses, the concept of the self will recede and eventually disappear altogether.